Cup, he'll probably beat whoever's out there. But, I mean, he really ran. He reminded me that win in there was as awesome as Arrogate's was when Arrogate got left at the gate and won and swept the field in the Dubai World Cup. I was really,
Did you know our 400-seat showroom is one of Las Vegas's top destinations for live entertainment? Enjoy live performances by classic Vegas entertainers, bands, and today's hottest comedians, plus a rock and dance floor.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You can also enjoy live entertainment at the Grandview Lounge, where you'll feel all the vibes of old Las Vegas. Enjoy the music, and if you love to laugh, don't miss the Dirty at 12:30, our very own free comedy show every Friday night at 12:30 a.m. in the Grandview Lounge.
I think it's
the
good.
Dirty is 100% free, so arrive early. Go to southpointcasino.com or call the box office at 77136 for today's performances at the showroom and the Grandview Lounge. When you're ready for your favorite cocktail, stop in and unwind at one of our 7 specialty lounges. There's a bar around every corner, because you're in Vegas, baby.
To the nickel. They don't round up.
South Point Casino has plenty of attractions for the whole family.
All those little pennies there to
Catch
add
a
up
movie.
to millions of dollars at the end of the year.
Includes 2
Where
XD
does that
extreme
money go
screens
to?
for the
Is that
ultimate in
part of
viewing,
going
sound,
into
and
the
luxury.
state
After the
taxes,
show,
or does
treat the family to a variety of treats at our old-fashioned ice cream parlor, Kate's Corner. We scoop up a variety of creamy concoctions, including smoothies, hand-dipped cones, milkshakes, malts, sodas, and sundaes. At Kate's, there's something for everyone. And if you still got time to spare, our bowling center might be right up your alley. Voted Best of Las Vegas, it's a great place for friends and family fun. 64 lanes, a pro shop, snack bar, and arcade. And while the kids are bowling, you can play slots and sip on a drink in the Alley Cat Lounge while overlooking the lanes. For our more serious and professional bowlers, the South Point is also home to a separate tournament bowling plaza.
Welcome in. Good afternoon. Happy to be with you as always. It is Sports by the Book Football Frenzy on a Friday. I only have 3 more of these. Season's winding down. College football is done. Three NFL games to go, but we will cover them better than anyone else here for the next hour. I'm Jeff Parles. Alongside me, matching with me today, Chris Andrews, the lovely South Point studio polo. All 3 of us were matching before with Frank Nicotero.
Yeah.
And our good friend Vinny Magliulo. Don't look perplexed, Vinny.
I forgot to send Vinny the memo.
I didn't get it. I thought I was on the distribution list.
No, you're not.
All right. Apparently not. I'll stick to my
I will say, Vinny, I think the only time I've ever seen you without a sport jacket on in this studio is when you have to go up to the Las Vegas Speedway to do the gambling seminar before the South Point 400.
Which I did get word on the other day, and I will be reunited with Frank Nicotero once again.
Great.
Yes.
Great.
So,
excellent.
Looking forward to that in March.
It's the week
March 16th, I think.
This is the week before. It's the week before March Madness, I think, this year, which is good.
It's St. Patrick's Day weekend. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's even better.
I think it's Selection Sunday weekend. Yeah, St. Patrick's Day. Yeah.
Oh, Selection Sunday, St. Patrick's Day this year? That's good.
Yeah.
We need you on Selection Sunday, by the way.
No, I'm going Saturday.
Yeah,
I'll be there Saturday. Yeah. But
I'll bring the barrel of Guinness for you guys when you're done with all the opening lines for the tournament that Sunday. All right, fellas, before we get into the NFC and AFC championship games, and I have 3 different sheets in front of me, all the props for the NFC title game on the one that says Commanders versus Eagles. Hopefully everyone gets that one right, Chris. You know which conference is which. Bills and Chiefs on the one that says Bills versus Chiefs.
Makes sense.
It makes sense. And then the last one, you have the conference championship one that includes the props of how much picking the team to win by a certain amount in each game, the highest scoring team for this upcoming Sunday. The championship exactas are still up. The yes-nos are now up as well. So a lot to get to on these 3 sheets over the next hour.
A lot of movement, too. So these
That's a good thing.
These are the opening lines. A lot of move. Not so much in the games, but in the props, a lot of movement.
Well, I want to ask you this real quick because we're getting up to the Super Bowl, obviously, by around this time next week, your whole booklet will be, if it's not ready, will be pretty darn close to being ready.
Should be done by next Friday, right around this time.
So just when you're now, because you guys don't normally book player props for most of the year. Not normally, but sometimes for some big games you do in the regular season.
The back of those two sheets have player props.
That's the point I'm making, where you have them up today, or had them up earlier this week for Sunday, I should say. Which, by the way, Travis Kelce 69.5 was the opening number. I know that's been bet up.
Has it?
According to
you probably know more than I do.
According to Frank Nicotero, which
he moved it.
That might be a little bit of a scary source. No, it's 69.5. So, yeah.
We had one guy come in and rattled the board. I mean, I can't even keep he bets, we move him. Yeah.
I like that 69.5 over if you can still get it here at the South Point. But according to Frank Nicotero 90 minutes ago, that's what it was at. So
I think that's what it's at.
Yeah. So Frank Nicotero with good intel. That's always a good start to the show.
He's a man with his fingers on the pulse.
Well, it's also surprising that he didn't bet the over also, too, before he left.
He might have, but he doesn't move the number.
Oh, might move it the other direction. He bets one way, you move it the
Alex
other.
might move it. Kenny might move it. Frankie ain't moving it.
So, Chris, the question I have is just what is the action and necessitates a move on a prop as opposed to just like the traditional sense of things?
We take 2 dimes on all the player props, and most of these are 2,000, but like the alternate point spreads, we take a lot more on that. Alternate totals, we take more on that. If you have something you want to bet and you want to ask if we take a little bit more, then go ahead and ask. I mean, I'll say no often, but you get 2,000 for sure on all of those props, and we kind of go from there.
Jeff, the thing about it too is to add to Chris's point, and we oftentimes get at, well, what's it going to take to move a number? Well, first of all, do you want to bet it yourself? Number one. Number two, and not you, I'm just saying in general, right? When people come up and ask that at the counter or things like that, it depends on who's betting it, right? And what else is what kind of movement there is out there. There are some extremely respected opinions that we saw already for these props, but especially once the Super Bowl gets here, because there's opportunities, right, to shop for prices, and many prices are different, right, Chris? A lot of these totals are different.
I've been checking. They're not uniform. I can tell you that.
And so
there's all kind of stuff.
You mentioned the Kelce number, right?
Yeah.
Well, somebody may have a 3-yard difference in that, and there are folks out there that will bet accordingly to that difference. If we're higher, they may go under. If we're lower, they may go over, and things like that. So as far as a set formula, if you will, there's no set formula whatsoever. It starts with limits and obviously the price, and then we go from there.
Going back real quick to Monday, guys, Ohio State wins. They cover. Now it looked like you could have got middled for a moment there.
8 was a very bad number.
Yeah, Ohio State ends up kicking the field goal. Game lands 11, so Buckeyes cover every single number that was on the board. And the game actually went zooming over, so that was also probably not a great result for
that was guys. Not great either.
But Chris, in the end, actually, the thing I want to bring up, your prop that you made at the beginning of the year ended up being a pretty darn good prop when it was all said and done.
And our good friend, the Bear, bet the one side of the prop. He bet Ohio State or Georgia to win the national championship, and he had so many guys tell him he's nuts. There's too many things can happen, and during the course of this season, the price of the prop moved very much against him. But of course, this week, Bear has a ticket to cash. All those other guys don't. That's all I can tell you.
Good for him.
So, Bear's a good friend of the show, and, really, in the end, we were rooting for him anyway. But, it was one of those games. I told Ryan Groundy before the game what we needed. We needed Notre Dame and under. And he texted me after the game. He says, well, how bad was it? I said, not as bad as you think. We wound up with – we didn't make any money on that game in particular, but we had props and we had all kind of stuff. Futures. We had the one main prop and we had the futures. And I says, not nearly as bad as you think. And actually, we showed a little bit of a slight win for the day. And of course, basketball was really good that day too.
Well, the other thing too, Jeff, and we talked about it. I don't remember, and Chris and I and Jimmy, we were racking up. I don't think we've ever seen a college football game with that much carryover before.
Right.
There were 10 NFL playoff games, so 2 weekends worth of playoff games going to it. And by the way, it also jumpstarts some carryover to these 2 games this week because the game fell. Talk about middle, all right. So the game, the Ohio State Notre Dame game was on Monday after 10 NFL playoff games and before these 2 conference finals. So it bridges those. Now, is there as much carryover to these games as those 10 going to that Monday night game? No, but certainly that game, lights. I always tell you that the Thursday night game kind of lights the fuse, right? Well, it certainly started the betting trend and the betting carryover for this weekend as well.
We got a few money line parlays started.
Yeah, just a few, I would guess.
Yeah, we did.
And a Buckeye-Eagle money line parlay probably.
That seems to be the most popular one. Yeah,
that started on Monday. By the way, at least again, games 2 years from now, but another page being flipped in the book of sports becoming even larger and larger here in Las Vegas. We kind of knew this was going to happen, but the CFP officially naming Allegiant Stadium the host of the 2027 National Championship game.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing, guys, just of how in a short period of time it's gone from, we can never go to Las Vegas to we want everything in Las Vegas.
We weren't allowed to advertise, Jeff. Forget going to here.
Yeah.
But I will say this. I'm not crazy about the Super Bowls being here because we do so much business. They can play it.
They can play it anywhere.
In Timbuktu, it doesn't matter. But they come here, and it's good for the restaurants and all that other stuff. I get that. But here, for the college football championship, that'll be a great thing for this town. Oh, yeah, that'll be terrific.
Look, the Super, again, credit to the NFL and the city last year. That event was awesome. All the media events. I mean, the media events were easy.
It was.
Talked to a lot of media members who are like, hey, it's got to come back here. This is like the easiest setup we've ever had.
Although I like Johnny Avello's statement that he's been saying for years. Super Bowl's a great place to go to if you can't come to Vegas.
Yeah.
So good old Johnny, and I'm with Johnny.
Vinny, do you know who Johnny Avello is?
I think so. I have to meet him. I'm so overdue to meet him. We keep missing each other.
That's actually what I think of all my jokes I've come up with, Vinny. I think that's my favorite one, actually. On that,
I only know him. Actually, know him the same amount of time I know Chrissy. We worked together at the Barbary Coast together.
Yeah, that's only 45 years.
Only 45.
1979 and 80. Yeah.
Ryan, if you can put that graphic that's on the top left there real quick, because the exactas are still up here, Chris. And
are those prices current?
Ryan, are those current?
Oh, yeah, then they're not current.
Oh, okay. Did you take a whack?
They're all over the place.
Did you take a whack on a bunch of these today?
We've been getting whacked and whacked repeatedly.
Oh,
I
okay.
can tell you.
All right.
I don't even remember what
price
they all
subject
are.
to change.
Yeah, price subject, because they've
We do
been
have
betting
that in
them
the
like
top
crazy.
right.
There you go.
Yeah,
Read the fine
they've
print.
been betting them like crazy. Yeah, so they're all over. But I will say this: we don't just lower prices when we get bet. We lower one, we raise one. We lower one, we raise one. So try to keep the theoretical hold percentage, about the same. So we've managed to do that so far. But we're getting action all over the place here.
So going to Sunday, and Jimmy will come in here in a few minutes. So we'll start the discussion now. When Jimmy comes in, we'll continue the discussion after whatever we end up on with Jimmy in here, because we can go anywhere when Jimmy gets in, as we know.
Yeah.
Commanders and Eagles first here, guys. This is the early game. This is noon Pacific time, 3 local time in Philadelphia. Chris, you and I were talking about this on Frank's show earlier, and you and I were talking about this on Monday as well, where you opened it lower, you took a nice whack on the underdog, and now they betted back up on you to 6, and you've been stuck there since Monday at about the first half of the title game on Monday.
Yeah.
But you and I are kind of in the same boat of Jalen Hurts, cleared fully today, fully practiced off the injury report, but Boy, I'm not fully convinced that he can be 100% healthy after that hit he took at the end of that Rams game on Sunday.
Yeah, I'm with you. And just for people that weren't watching Frank's show, what happened, the number was pretty much 5.5 everywhere when we opened it last Sunday. I opened at 5, again, because of my concern for Jalen Hurts. And the first bet came in plus the 5. And I'm thinking, well, I think, probably, because the guy who bet me, pretty sharp guy. I'm thinking, well, he probably saw the same thing I did or knows something. So I go to 4.5. Man, it wasn't too long after that. They laid me the 4.5. They laid me the 5. They laid me the 5.5. So I'm at 6 right now. And I got to say, on both these games, I do not have a strong opinion whatsoever. I think the numbers, like I said, my numbers came to 5.5. I opened at that half point lower because I was concerned about Hurts. But game's 5.5 or game 6 now. My numbers came to 5.5. Well, that doesn't call for a bet. I mean, that half a point. Mm-hmm. And in the second game. Well, just hit that real quick. I opened 1.5, and that's what my numbers came to. And they laid me the 1.5, went to 2, and now they're taking a 2. So, again, I have no opinion on either of these games. So just come on in and bet them, and whoever I wind up with is who I wind up with.
We're going to find out about Hurts right away, I think, right?
We
and
will,
of course, who's the most concerned about Hurts besides the Eagles is the Commanders, right?
No,
they're going to do some things to test and see exactly how healthy his knee is or is not. So, but again, I think on the flip side of that too, you have to remember Washington has got some injuries that they're dealing with, right? I mean, you had Bobby Wagner and Ertz, Zach Ertz taking most of the week off. I think they were back at practice today, pretty sore. They lose one of their offensive linemen too.
Yeah, the guard, wasn't it?
Sam Cosmi.
So Cosmi's out,
and he's out for this game. So
he's done for the season.
Obviously, the quarterback injury or quarterback not being 100% gets the most attention, and understandably so, because that's the position that impacts the point spread and the betting the most. But you've got a cluster of injuries that bear watching on the Commanders' side as well.
So here's some numbers against the Washington Commanders this week, real quick. Mm-hmm. Rookie quarterbacks have 0 Super Bowl appearances. Jaden Daniels did join a group of 2 previous to win 2 road playoff games in the same postseason as a rookie. Of course, the illustrious group of Joe Flacco and Mark Sanchez, who did it back-to-back years in 2008 and 2009. Daniels is the first rookie since Brock Purdy just 2 years ago to win 2 postseason games in their rookie season. The Commanders will be the 6th team in NFL history to play 4 consecutive road games, including 3 playoff games. Those teams are a hearty 0-5 in the 4th road game. So they would be the first team in NFL history to win 4 consecutive road games en route to making the Super Bowl, which would what it would have to be. So a lot of past history to go against Washington here in this game. Not quite the home dog to road favorite. Or yes, I got that right. Home dog to road favorite trend. But these, it's still small sample size, right. But it's still something to at least look at here.
It means something.
Yeah.
How much we'll find out on Sunday, but it does mean something.
There are teams that have gone on the road, though, throughout the playoffs and won the Super Bowl. The Giants, the Steelers,
right?
I believe did it in one of their Super Bowl runs. Just as examples,
Giants, of course, did it. The Packers, of course, did it with Rodgers' only title. They were a 6 seed that won it all, won all 3 road games.
And by the way, I think that in Week 18, I don't think Washington needed that game. I mean, they were on the road. I think that wasn't that.
Remember, that was a weird one because Daniels played about 2.5 quarters. Did not play well. Mariota came in and destroyed the Dallas defense.
Yeah. So I mean, listen, I know those stats are there and everything like that, but and the other thing is, frankly, I have to be honest with you. Some teams play better on the road. Some teams are better away from home. There's a lot less distractions too. Now this is not a trip. This is a bus trip too, right? It's not like they're having to fly.
Wow, either the bus or the Excella, my friend.
So I mean, I don't know. A lot of times, I think some of that is you have to take all aspects into account, and there are plenty of teams that seem to rally when they're on the road. But I mean, now, is there a home field advantage for the Eagles? Yeah, one of the better home field advantages, certainly with the Chiefs as well when we get to that game.
Well, this is to me of the two games, I've had a much harder time with this one than the AFC game, where this feels like Philadelphia wins but doesn't cover. It's in the boat I'm in right now, where
it's a boat we're in.
Oh, I know. I think that would be Philadelphia by 3. I'm sure would be a good result at this point.
Big boat.
Yeah.
But
wouldn't mind.
You're in a scenario here where you look at the 4 major units in this game. Both of these special teams are actually pretty good whenever the Commanders actually have to punt. Trezway has done a good job.
Yeah.
Braden Mann, by the way, unsung hero of that game on Sunday with those 2 holds where the ball was nearly snapped into oblivion twice, and Mann got it down. Both guys, again, Elliott has had problems with PATs this year, which is very strange for a guy who's been super consistent his whole career. Zane Gonzalez, of course, made the kick that doinked through against Tampa, missed one at the end against Detroit, but it ended up mattering. But of the 4 major of the non-special teams units, Philadelphia's defense, it has to be power rated number 1 of the 4 units in this game. And as great as Jaden Daniels and that offense has been in this postseason, that is a very tough thing to deal with when the opposing defense, forget being the best unit in this game, I think they're the best defense in the National Football League.
I've been saying that for a while.
Yeah, absolutely.
I said, power rating wise, I had Detroit higher than Philadelphia, but had they matched up, and, obviously a lot of things depending on this or that, I said I probably would have leaned to Philadelphia because I tend to like defense in these playoff games. I think that tends to rule the day. Obviously, that's not true 100% of the time, but tends to rule the day. Of course, we never got that matchup. But here we are, and, I think that, I could see the guys betting Philadelphia, but that Hurts question mark is just really weighing on my mind. And if he's not 100%, that takes away a big part of his game and the game itself for Philadelphia, because, they'll certainly be keying on Saquon Barkley with if Hurts is not 100%. And I saw the Washington defensive coordinator, I forget his name, said if Hurts runs out of the pocket, we're treating him like a running back. We're hitting him.
Joe Witt Jr. is the Washington.
God bless.
Yeah.
God bless. When these guys are out of the pocket, you got to be able to hit them. And I hope the refs are paying attention. And, dear God, you got to let these guys play football, for God's sake.
I think you're going to see some folks kind of wait it out as well, Jeff. It's something that you've done. And based on the Eagles' first possession, or certainly the first 2 possessions, then there'll be a significant increase in the in-game activity, right? There'll be a spike there. So, that's another way that folks are going to look at it.
It's and also, too, you have the 3rd meeting between these teams.
Yes.
Split the regular season meetings. 2 very different looking games, too.
Well, Hurts got hurt in the second game.
Exactly,
Don't forget when they were driving. I think to go up by 3 scores. Three scores.
I think it was 2.
I think was it 14-0, and they were going in.
I think it was 14-3, so it might have been 3 technically,
okay.
But it was still, that was a game where I'm convinced if Hurst doesn't get a concussion, Philadelphia puts 50 on him in that game, and we're having Washington has a totally different path at this point to get to this game. This would have been a first-round matchup instead of an NFC title game in a 2-7 instead of a 2-6. But it's so interesting to see just a matchup a third time around where they play 2 totally different games. That first game, if you remember, that was a low, still barely any scoring until Barkley went off in the fourth quarter of that game. That was it
was a close game. The Commanders were covering.
Washington was leading going into the fourth quarter of that game.
Yeah.
It's almost, they could have argued the results in both of those games could have very easily been reversed. But it's it's so interesting. And the one thing I'm thrilled I don't have to hear it all this week, Chris, that it's difficult to beat a team 3 times in one season. I'm thrilled I don't have to hear that at all this week.
Not if you're that much better than the other team. It's not that hard to beat.
Exactly. Yeah, like if the Eagles played the Giants in a playoff game, they would beat them for a 3rd time this year. Of course they would. But no, I'm happy that old cliche is a non-issue this week. As we said earlier, you grabbed this prop sheet that says Commanders versus Eagles. It's very easily laid out for you here at the South Point. So,
and turn it over too, because
that's the backside.
So the front,
props on the other
front
side,
is all the props that Chris and company always put up for every primetime game. Will there be a defense or special teams touchdown? Who will score for first? The three straight scores.
That always gets a lot of play.
Everyone loves betting to know, even though it's minus 180 on ES for a reason. Yeah. But then on the back, make sure you don't forget it. There are select props for this game for player prop wise. And again, this is just a taste before we get to the Super Bowl in 2 weeks, where you guys will have a book that is quite large.
15, 16 pages, something like that.
It was more than that last year, wasn't it?
Might be. I can't remember.
Yeah. And by the way, you have credit to staff who does a great job with these sheets.
Yeah.
I mean, they're organized, they're concise. Again, the opening line is listed. Odds are subject to change, but it's a lot of work to get these in and organize them and get the stipulations to coincide with the house rules and stuff. So credit the staff for the job they do.
In the article they did on us last year in the Washington Post. By the way, anybody wants to read it, you should go Google that. It's pretty good. Ashley helps me. Well, actually did these, but she helps me with the Super Bowl props, and it's Chris's much younger associate. And did we need to put much younger in there? Yeah.
Well, at least she didn't call you legendary. I know Vinny doesn't. Vinny doesn't like that one.
I don't like that either. I don't like that either.
It's almost like you're not above ground.
It's like you're ready to die. You know. So.
You're only in charge of a successful sports book. I mean, make sure you grab the sheet. That's where all the props are for this Commanders and Eagles game. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll see if we can find Jimmy, wherever Jimmy may be.
He's he's a man of the people. He's over your right shoulder there, speaking to a guest.
Is that Sheriff Pan he's talking to?
Is that Sheriff Pan?
Probably. I don't know if it is.
No, I think it's.
No, because Sheriff Pan would have the full uniform.
Yeah, I was going to say it was a good-looking hat, but I apologize for David. Dave, it doesn't really look like David at all now that I see him. Now that Jimmy's not blocking him, but we'll have Jimmy in a moment, and we'll also, of course, look at the AFC side of things. Buffalo trying to finally beat Kansas City in a playoff game when it matters most. That's up next. Sports by the Book Football Frenzy.
Once you've satisfied your hunger, get ready for more of the hottest casino games in Vegas. Our 24-hour, 30-table non-smoking poker room proudly hosts all the most popular poker games with a variety of betting limits. Visit the poker room for a schedule of daily tournaments. Whether you're going to hold 'em or fold 'em, the best place for poker is at South Point Casino. You'll notice that our craps tables are usually the loudest in the casino. If you've never played, join one of our free craps lessons to find out what makes this game so exciting. Check with the craps dealer for schedules and give it a roll. Bingo is also an exciting way to spend your time. We offer 7 sessions of bingo every day. Bingo! And each session includes a cash ball jackpot, 12 bingo games, a progressive double action game, and a $10,000 bonus coverall. Electronic units are available. If you haven't played bingo with us, give it a try today. Guests can also get in on the action at our one-of-a-kind race and sports books. 2 separate rooms designed to maximize your experience and comfort. Our sports book, with over 400 seats, puts you right in the middle of the action, 24 hours a day. The friendly ticket writers are happy to help, and it's conveniently located next to the famous Del Mar Deli, where you'll find supersized portions of delicious deli items like roast beef, pastrami, and Reuben sandwiches, or soups, salads, and pizza. Plus spectacular desserts fit for a king. And right next door is the race book. Over 150 seats, each with its own TV screen. There are 16 interactive player terminals, so you can bet right from your seat.
We're back in at Sports by the Book Football Frenzy on a Friday. Jeff Parles, Chris Andrews, Vinny Magliulo. We'll bring Jimmy in a second. Just want to check in with the chat first. Very active today. Bob Custer's on the Commanders outright. Okay. He also is a big fan of our shirts and Vinny's jackets, so that's always a good sign. Chris Brady wouldn't want to be on the spread for either of these favorites this week. Very interesting. Okay. Dean thinks the Chief defense is underrated. He must have been listening to us earlier today. Yeah. Okay. Also has a question that I'll get to in a second. Vince is in there, and our guy Ryan is in there, who's all over Bill Belichick next year. There we go, McCormick. With North Carolina. One of the poll questions today was, who do you like way too early for next year's college football title? Which
next year's college football title?
Yeah.
Penn State.
See, there we go. Going to the other category. The people love Arch Manning. Texas won that vote. So there you go on that front.
Makes sense.
Dean did ask, though, because on the sheet, it does say very prominently, no parlays on propositional wagers. Dean just asked what's the rationale behind not taking parlays on props?
Well, that's a good question, and let me explain it, because you can correlate a lot of different things with these props. Let's say you're going to play Jalen Hurts under, and maybe that means Saquon Barkley over. Okay. Or you can play Jalen Hurts under total passing yards. Then you parlay that with some of the Eagles receivers under yardage, blah, blah, blah. Same with any game. So there are definitely correlations that can be had. And as bookmakers, let me just tell you, I've made my mistakes in the past and have allowed some of these correlated parlays on different things. And, you learn your lesson. You learn them fast. And, I used to put out a prop card, and we have one here at the South Point, but I had a different one when I was with Cal Neva that could be easy to find some bargains, and I have to watch it every week. But it's one of those things. Like I say, you live and you learn. But there are correlated possibilities that, as a bookmaker, you have to watch out for. And if you really want a classic story on correlated parlays, go buy my first book.
Yes.
There is a classic story about some correlated parlays in that one, and we'll just kind of leave that in. Well, no, but why not? Harris put out a Super Bowl card with correlated parlays you just can't believe.
Oh, man. Definitely. And then one day, the first book.
Then one day, my first book. For Find
Chris.
It on Amazon.
Find it on Amazon. A great read. Because I moved to a new place.
Yeah.
I found my signed copy.
Oh, very good.
After unpacking some boxes, which I was very happy with.
There was a thing on Twitter the other day, what book should everybody read? And I didn't say my own book. I didn't say my own book. I said, The Swerve is a great book. Actually, I'm rereading it for the second time. But some guy said, my book, which, I greatly appreciate. He says, he's read it 10 times. Jeez, I didn't read it 10 times. I'm glad I hope he didn't. I hope he bought it 10 times. Let's say that. I don't think he did, though. Yeah.
We bring our friend Jimmy Vaccaro in.
Here's my correlated parlay. Ready?
Go for it.
Jimmy and 5 tomatoes chasing him. That's the correlated parlay.
I make the tomatoes a big favorite to catch you. I don't know what you're going to do once they catch you, but
that's what I said. Yeah. You like doing the show with us on here, don't you?
Jimmy, I always look forward to it.
I'm ready.
I always have an amazing time. It's always a lot of fun.
Nice day for Jimmy and Vincenz. Chris had to work today. So we had a lunch at the Metro, which we do. Obviously, we should do more of. And Bogdanovich, Big Nick, picked up the check.
Whoa. Yeah, really? Wow.
So that's a big,
good for
we
him.
had a good time over there at Metro. So, I'm just telling you, everything is good. And like everything else, I'm going to bring up something that, very seldom we know about it. We talk about it, not in the same cases. I'm trying to do it right now. Props are really a big thing when it comes to these games. Here's how big it is. First of all, this is a week ahead of time we're doing props on a team, as opposed to way back when it was just on Super Bowl Sunday. That's all we used to do it. But way back when, and I'm going back to the late 70s, early 80s, when me and my friends were in business here, and you said the word prop, they had no idea what we were talking about because we didn't use them. Now, people say today, yeah, I did them, but let me tell you something. We were there. You might have did 4 proposition bets on the 1980 Super Bowl because no one really did it. And then we start figuring out, in a nice fashion, that any business that we have, the more things we create, the more hopefully ways we can, make some money because, it's just like everything else. Every year it costs money to do the sports book that we're doing. And so you have to try to win other things. So the props are a good position better if done correctly. And if the people who are putting up their numbers obviously make good numbers and you grind out a nice bet. We went from 4 proper bets way back when, and now everybody has at least 200. So
we have 300 here.
300 we're up to.
Yeah.
So if you grind just a few winners, you're going to make some money. So it's like every other business. We have to keep making things. We have to keep doing things that the general public like. Because trust me, the smart guys jump in here for the props, but we're here because of the general guy that wants to come out twice or 3 times a year and obviously have a good time. So all I know is as Chris just said, 300 from 35, 40 years ago was 4 different ways to bet the Super Bowl. So I just thought I'd bring that up because it sounds so easy. Yeah, you guys didn't do this. What are you talking about, buddy? We started with 4 of them. Now I got 300. So do you guys get the same feeling that I do? Not that it's a must, but once you do it, you only have a couple more events before you get to football season. So you'd like to come off the prop bets, betting a nice figure because, again, we'll do March Madness, then we're nothing until August again. So what do you guys think of that?
Yeah, the other thing I'd like to kind of tell people about, and again, it was going back to that article, the guy that interviewed, he was with Danny Fund, nice kid, wrote the nice article about us in the Washington Post. And, he asked the question, I think it's in his article. We make the opening line and we do our homework the best we can with all kind of information that we get. But once we do them, it's the money that dictates. Sure. And then he's asking me, well, do you go back and crunch any of these numbers? And say, no. All we do is we manage the money because we got guys, a lot of guys out there that, guys who are friends of ours that are very sharp guys, Zach White, Rufus Peabody, among a myriad of others who these guys work all year on this. And, that it's just not possible for someone like me to do that. So when they come, they bet you, hey, we move the hell out of it, but, Rufus comes in and he's got a list this long of stuff. Zach, same thing. Well, and he, among a bunch of others. And when they bet us, we respect them and their action. And if I can go in with the same side as them, I do. But once we open the number, my homework is done. I'm just reacting to the money that's actually bet.
Just no 3 on the team that loses the Super Bowl. No 3.
We usually try to put that. I'll tell you one thing, and again, in the book that I have coming out, I'm doing the final edit right now. I have a story in there about me and Jimmy Vaccaro, and how it's a long story. I don't want to get into it right now; it'd take too long. But when it was the Eagles and Patriots Super Bowl a couple years ago, and we scrambled, and without my friend Jimmy, we'd have never made the money we did out of that little office back there. We won a third of the entire state's win. Because of, like I said, without him, I could have never done it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's going to be in my new book.
Vincenzo, go ahead.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
You know what? Okay, quickly, as we talk about it, you have a good year in the sports, you hold 7%. You have a fair year, you hold a 6%. So that's not a lot of leeway there. So as we said it a million times, you say you blow your brains out with the prop bets. Well, kid, you're here till the first 4 days of March Madness. Then it's it. Yeah. So you at least try to have to have that always tackled in the back, and you can use that in August when you start playing the regular game. So it's a prop bet that you have to do it, and they have said it now a couple of times. You have to do it the right way. You can't be like, well, I know my numbers are better. No, as Chris said, somebody bets you $5,000, you change it. You don't want to hear, well, that was a stupid bet. You don't want to. You could care less. All you know is you took a bet for $5,000. They laid probably $1.10 or $1.20. So it's a different ball game. And then also remember when we were here, and one of the things, and here we go again, but I got to talk about it. The props kept growing. Late 70s, early 81. But when that guy crossed the goal line and had the ball under his hand,
refrigerator,
yeah. Everything changed with proposition
Super Bowl
bets.
20.
Yeah.
Because us three here, and I know it affected us all, What it did, even though obviously, first of all, we did good on it. It wasn't really bad. Your cousin was the one who blowed his brains out, which ain't bad for Caesar's Palace.
They survived.
Yeah, they survived. But what I'm getting at is like you just had to do the right thing and do it in the right way. And then from that particular point, and I know it happened to me and it happened to you guys also, we got more publicity from that position play here than we've ever had in a proposition bets. So if you just got your way through and then all of a sudden you were hitting, 40 to 1, 20 to 1, 30 to 1, then it was like almost even money that this kid would score a touchdown or did score a touchdown.
I think he closed it at 2 to 1.
Yeah.
And then,
it was, what, he opened at 50? Something like that.
I was real smart. I was at the MGM running the joint then. I only lost 40,000 on that.
Well, the kick, but here was the greatest lesson from that prop, if you remember. It was a one-way prop.
Yeah.
That's what killed us. Which, by the way, I think we're still paying that. A couple of guys showed up with some tickets last week. But
so my cousin Art called me and told me he was putting it up. I didn't put it up. I says, you're crazy. I said, first of all, again, in my book that's coming out, probably one of the absolute biggest scores of my life. I had the Bears from the beginning of the season, bet them in the futures, pressed my bet and all that. I said, Ditka's going to stick it up our ass if he can. And if he can, send in Perry to score a touchdown, to stick it to Vegas, he's going to do it. I told Archie he was crazy for doing it. So I never put it up. I never put it up at all.
True story. By the way, so people are asking, I got a couple, what were the 4 bets, the original? So you had the game.
Yep.
You had the total.
Yeah. Yep.
You had the money line. And then you had halftime.
Yeah, that was it.
That was until we started putting up
even
props.
have money lines.
Money
lines were later.
So it's grown. And now, depending on the property, the prop. Well, of course, we had the futures, but the props can accommodate. I mean, can account for. And some of our colleagues that we talked to, 60 to 65% of the Super Bowl handle.
Sure. I mean, and remember this.
That's what ours were.
Just as important as like obviously, hopefully, winning the game is like there wasn't a sports column in the country, not in the state or this part of the country, that wanted a story on that proposition bets. It kicked it off. Like then you come in the next week and say, what are you doing this week? What are you doing this year? Whatever. So that was a monster plus for the books. And we didn't even know what the hell we were doing. We just threw it up there like whatever. So like I said, you got to keep thinking ahead also. If you don't, even though if you win, to open and run a sports book, it costs a lot of money. So you have to win. And like nobody upstairs wants to hear you, well, what do you mean we didn't, even though we won the prop? No, kid, you have to won the prop and won some money. End of story.
Well, I always tell Michael, now since I've been here, which this will be my 9th Super Bowl, we've always done well on the props. Mm-hmm. But I remind Michael every year, this is no guarantee.
Right.
You understand that? I mean, we could lose too. Mm-hmm. Oh, no, we've done great. You're right. That doesn't mean we're going to do great this time. I'm telling you. I always try to warn them.
We should do
no guarantee.
We'll tell some stories like Super Bowl week. We'll do some memorable Super Bowl.
Well, next week
incidents.
Next week we obviously it's the bye week in between. Next Friday is.
I'll tell you what. I'll tell the story about the Eagles and Patriots where Jimmy helped me.
We'll get even though it's not Christmas time anymore, we'll get the U-Log in here and we'll be in good shape and we'll tell stories.
All
next week, Jimmy.
Okay, gentlemen.
Thank you as always.
Have a good week.
You as well, Jimmy.
You scoring a touchdown.
Jeez, you can't make that price high enough,
you went
Jimmy.
80 yards for the touchdown, but you found out it was holding.
Oh,
so you had to go back.
I thought he was gonna say I did it to Deshaun Jackson and threw the ball before the went over the end zone.
He wins after the situation's done.
We're still looking to take action against you and Nicotero.
I can't wait to actually see that. I'm gonna actually have to go get some basketball shots.
You better go get some shots.
Yeah, but I'm after seeing Frank's free throw form last year upstairs in the ballroom, I feel pretty confident that
he might have been. Be careful. He might have been deking you there. You were there, right? You get some footage when you're not. I mean, maybe he's just.
I think
be aware of the hustle.
Well, if he hustles me. I'll deal with it. Deal with the repercussions of that.
You could hustle him.
If not,
you could hustle him.
Well, here's the problem. If what's going to inevitably happen is we're going to do it. If I win, he's going to have to eat those pink animal crackers. I haven't figured out what's going to be on my end yet, but it'll probably be something peanut butter related.
And how many? Is this out of 10 free throws?
No, we're doing what was it? Caitlin Clark at 54 3-point attempts.
Yeah.
That they showed. So we're going to take 54 threes each. and we're going to see how many we make. Frank set his over-under at 27, which I think was extraordinarily high.
You think?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Wait a second. 3-point shots?
Yes.
He's going to make 50% of them?
Vinny, that was my reaction, too.
I want to understand this.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, Caitlin hit 50 of 54.
Yeah, well, she's
That's
also
pretty good.
Also,
So
one
that's
of the
what
3
Frank
best
thought.
shooters on the planet.
Yeah, that's what Frank thought. Well, I could hit
27. No way. No way. No way.
I don't think so.
I mean, if I somehow got to 27, I'm going to win by 10, at least 10 shots when it's all said and done. All right, to this other game here this weekend. We do it again for the 4th time since 2020 between Kansas City and Buffalo in the playoffs. The Chiefs are 3-0 in the postseason against Buffalo. They are a 2-point favorite right now in this game, Chris. You guys are market low on the total at 48. It's 48.5 basically everywhere else right now.
Well, let me tell you, we went to
Please.
48.5
And I got
somebody
bet down.
bet me on there.
Yeah.
Sharp guy. So I'll probably wind up back there again, maybe even as soon as I get back to the office.
So this is, again, it's such a, every time these teams play, it's mega action across the board.
Sure.
It just, for me, it's very simplistic. Show me you can beat them before I can trust you to bet on them in Buffalo. They beat them in the regular season, fine.
Okay.
But they're 0 for 3 in the postseason. They've had 2 excruciating losses mixed in there. Mm-hmm. Last year was not quite as excruciating as the 13-second game, which I think if that happened to the team granted, that would mean the Jets would be in the playoffs, so that would be one thing that can't happen anytime soon. But if that happened to a team I rooted for, it would take years to recover from that 13-second game. But, Chris, this feels like Buffalo's shot, right? Kansas City is vulnerable. It's not like Kansas City played a particularly great game last week against Houston, even though we all know what happened with the spread nonsense at the end of that game. But Kansas City 2-point favorite at Arrowhead here for the right to go to the Super Bowl for Buffalo and KC.
Well, again, you look back at that 13-second game, and that's one of the all-time just heart-wrenching defeats for this Buffalo team. And, who would not want to have the lead with 13 seconds to play? But they didn't win, and, again, credit to Kansas City and Mahomes for pulling that out. But this year, Kansas City has not been that dynamite team. However, if you follow Jeff Fogel, and I talk about him a lot. I think Alex does, and you do too. Mm-hmm. I read Fogel's synopses of all football. I don't follow although he's doing basketball too, and I'm sure
doing a ton of basketball.
Yeah, doing a lot of basketball. Yeah. But I follow him a lot in the football, and he has a way of talking about this Kansas City team on how they win games, and not necessarily in a manner that pumps up the point spread. And I've talked about this. The power rating doesn't always indicate how likely they are to win the game, because it has a lot. Power ratings have a lot to do with final scores, that sort of thing. So I really don't have an opinion in this game. I can tell you, I'm probably going to be rooting for Buffalo just because I'm tired of seeing Kansas City. But I can see where Fogel has some very, very good points that he brings up on how Kansas City is designed to win games, not necessarily score a ton of points or totally shut down the other team on defense and that sort of thing. But they have a formula to win games, and, it works. They've won how many in a row? They've won 2 Super Bowls in a row. They lost to one a couple years ago when their tackles were missing from the game. But overall, Andy Reid, along with his personnel, they have a formula for winning, and I would be very cognizant of that. And if you're going to look at strictly numbers, you better look at that number, which means producing a lot of wins. But all that being said, I still think Buffalo has a great, great chance in this game.
Jeff's assessments are really good and spot on. What's interesting about this game and about the Chiefs is, and we started to really take note of this probably the after the first third of last season, or it was in effect, I should say. Even though the Chiefs are as public a team as we've seen in recent memory, we need them almost every week. When you think about it, we've talked about this during the course of the regular season. Now, are the prices overinflated? Maybe, but that again, there's still money that comes. It's not like there's an avalanche, but when it comes to at the end of the day, the side that we've needed more than not, it's been the Chiefs. But because they're not blowing teams out either. And their offense has not been as prolific in the last couple of years as previously. But it's their defense that's carried them, right? When you think about it, their defense is very good. From a coaching standpoint, I would say it's the best coaching staff.
Yeah.
And Steve Spagnuolo is listen, there are some folks that are extremely good at being a head coach. There are others that are like their wheelhouse is being a coordinator. And when you look at Spagnuolo, what he's done and, partnered with Andy Reid, what they do is phenomenal. And it sets them apart from the other three teams that are here. So from a coaching standpoint, edge to them. They're also the healthiest they've been probably since the first part of the season. I mean, they've got just about everybody back now. The Bills, I would worry about their defense in this game, even though I just mentioned the fact that the Chiefs have not been scoring points, and we know that the Bills, because they can score points in bunches, are always dangerous. There's an injury there, Taylor Rapp, who is out, their safety, and I think his replacement, it's Cole Bishop, I think he's a rookie or a second-year man. So not the experience in that area. With all the receivers in particular that are coming back for the Chiefs, you may see that the Chiefs try to exploit that. But all of that said, there's a belief that the Bills can get this done, and because they can score points, and even if they're behind, and we've seen them behind in some games by double digits, even that the one game they didn't come back against was when they played the Ravens during the course of the regular season. Of course, they exacted revenge last week and had to hold on. But this figures to be a terrific game. At the end of the day, with these two games, we're going to need probably the favorite in the first game. We're probably going to need the Eagles to win the game, but not cover. In this game, that game will determine it. But this game here, I think there's more money so far on the Bills money line, because if you like the Bills, it's such a close spread. If you like the Bills, you like them to win the game. So folks, are taking anywhere from a nickel or a dime. So you're raising your.
I'm showing one finger.
There you go.
Kansas City by 1 is the best result, right?
It would be at this point in time.
It would be right now. So
hey, look, not impossible. Not impossible by any stretch.
A fellow by the name of Jackie Gaughan told me when he was a kid, it's got to land somewhere.
Yeah, it sure does. This is again for Buffalo though. Like, you only get so many cracks, right?
Yeah.
You only get so many opportunities. Like, it's pretty unfathomable that you get 4 opportunities in forget just 5 years, which is what it is, but 4 opportunities now at Kansas City in the playoffs. You got to bust through at one point or another, you would think.
Tell the Bills from the 90s that.
Chris, I'm going to get to what I said on Punchlines earlier because I love the stats so much. If the Bills win this game and play the Eagles in New Orleans in just about 2 weeks and lose that game to Philadelphia, the Bills will make NFL history of being the only team in NFL history to lose a Super Bowl to every single team in one division in the other conference.
Ouch.
Which, again, the Bills obviously lost 4 straight in the 90s, which should have been impossible, which kind of would be impossible for that.
4 straight.
4 straight. It is kind of amazing also that they played the NFC East all 4 times in those Super Bowls. It is
twice
against Dallas, once against Washington, once against the Giants in wide right. Still surprising San Francisco didn't sneak their way in there at all to get a crack.
By the way, these teams here, both home teams, and you could say the same about the Bills. These are 3 of the 4 best home field advantages that we've seen. So, and when I say the 3 of the 4, I mean the Bills obviously have a very good home field advantage, but the Chiefs and the Eagles home field advantages. When Jimmy was in here and we were talking about, booking years ago and everything, it was automatically 3 or more points to the home team. Not the case anymore. Some teams have 0 home field advantage. One of them resides here in town presently. But the Chiefs at home with, coming off their only loss this year was at Buffalo, right? Too. So that kind of adds to it as well. So these are two of the stronger home fields.
All of the props available on the sheet that says Bills versus Chiefs. See, they make it easy for you here at the South Point. Again, front of the page, the props that have been up for every primetime game this year. On the back, the individual player props, including who will score the first touchdown in the game. You want to bet no touchdown in the AFC title game? You're getting a nice 250 to 1 on that. If you want to try to strike lightning for the third.
There's always a chance.
Well, it's not a Thursday night game. Those are the only 2 games this year without touchdowns, and it was a pair of Thursday games where. Pretty sure that St. Louis, geez, dollar in the jar. That L.A. San Francisco game was I know circa like 410 to 1 or something wild on that. Well, that game was total 52. I'm pretty sure that was a really high total.
Well, it reminds me of the years my friend Zach White. I love Zach too. He's a hell of a guy. Beat me out of 100,000. He bet the Rams would score exactly 3 points. Yeah, that total. I don't think it was 50. I think it might have been in the 50s.
What
2019?
I know this is 2019. So what number was that? Was that 50,
53?
53, right?
Yeah, it was the Rams and the Patriots.
What was the total on that?
That was 13-3.
The total on the game was 56.
Zach, you rat.
A horrible game. That was the first game that the first
Rams exactly 3 points, 500 to 1.
Yeah, he beat me out of 100,000.
How's that?
But it was one of those games we did really well with the game.
Oh, I'm sure.
ESPN picked up and around the country picked up that we lost 100,000 on that prop. Michael Gaughan was happy as could be. Yeah. Well, like I said, we actually had a hell of a day, but Zach picked my pocket for 100,000.
Actually, but there's another. We got a couple of minutes here. Just speaking of total,
please.
I think it was the Falcons. Patriots.
Oh, the one where you were stuck on 9 for a while.
9, and so the game it was the Patriots, where the Patriots scored 9 points.
It was 28-9 for a long time.
So we're sitting there looking and everything, and I'm just kind of thumbing through the sheet, because as the game's on, you're looking at props and everything like that, and I'm like, hey, Chrissy, what's this? Look up the Patriots. They've been sitting on 9 for a while. Look it up. And his eyes reflects those reflections.
It's probably whiter than this sheet.
In the computer screen. I'm like, oh my God. It was another 6-figure.
Yeah. Oh, no. It was well into 6 figures.
Oh,
it was more than the 100 that Zach beat me out of. But it was one of those deals where, like, if you took the game time, wasn't that long. But the time on the clock had to be about 45 minutes or so.
Well, that of course was the infamous 28-3 debacle, which is still Atlanta plus the points.
Dan Quinn, does he run the ball on what was that, second down?
That was the Kyle Shanahan masterclass. Vinny, trust me, I was on Atlanta, all over Atlanta plus the points that day, somehow managing to not cover. But as soon as New England won the coin toss in overtime, you knew you were done.
Well, here's what
you knew you were done at that point.
New England by 3 was a horrible score.
Yeah.
So at that point, I knew there's no way they're going to stop Brady. Go get me the touchdown.
Please.
Go get me the touchdown. Get me off the 3. We wound up with a real good day again, even though we kind of needed Atlanta, but it was fine the way it turned out. It's just Brady, get me in the end zone. And I'll tell you what, I've been watching football a long time. If it's not Brady, you'd want Montana to get you in the end zone.
Yeah.
And, beat Brady. I got to say, if you go through all my years of bookmaking, I probably have a right to hate Brady a lot worse than I do, because he's won some big games for me. Won a lot of big ones.
By the way, we also have a prop, and we should point something out here.
Yes,
in the championship matchups.
On this page right here.
And Chrissy posted the championship matchups, the point spreads on them. So
I got the totals, too. You have an early sheet.
Yeah, okay. Go ahead, read them. Yeah. Read them, what you have.
So we opened Kansas City 1 over the Eagles, total 45.5. Kansas City 5 over the Commanders, total 49.5. Buffalo and Philly pick, total 47.5. And Buffalo 4 over Washington, total 52.5. Now, Vinny's point that he's making is you could bet these if the game goes, if you get, like, let's say you bet Bills and Eagles. If it's Bills and Eagles, you have a bet. But if it's not that, you get your money back.
On the others.
Yeah, on any of the other. So one of those will have action, and 3 of them won't have action. So you're not risking getting screwed by us. If
Right.
if you bet one of the matchups that don't come,
don't
you
throw
get
your
money
ticket
back.
away.
You
because
get your money back.
anybody that puts this up a lot of places, I really want to put it up, is because all bets are action no matter what. And the other part of it is that, because we're going to get asked, well, what do you make this? What do you make the game? Let me just say this. These are prices that are locked in. They may be different. And the reason they may be different is, A, injuries. We'll see what happens, how the teams come out. But also perception, right? The second game is going to have a huge impact on the number. It always does, because it's freshest in people's minds. So let's just say that both favorites prevail. The Eagles win the first game. So let's say it's Eagles-Chiefs, and right now Chris has got that game that the Chiefs won. Well, let's say if the Eagles blow the Commanders out, and then the Chiefs, they win the game, on the last play, on the last second field goal or something. You might see a pick. You might see the Eagles win. It depends on, and again, how they come out of the game and everything. But I did want to give Chris credit for the fact that that's a pretty fair and generous offering, in the fact that you can bet it, you'll have it for the game if that's the matchup that comes up, and if you bet a matchup that doesn't come up, you get your money back.
Before we get out of here, guys, just want to ask you real quick, because this has been a week where a lot of coaching hires have happened. Kicked off with the Bears actually stunningly, seemingly landing on what I think is the right guy with getting Ben Johnson away from Detroit. Jets hiring Aaron Glenn, so total brain drain in Detroit going on right now. Liam Cohen, after a very weird week, ends up as the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars earlier today, and then the one for the team just down the road from us, which I said it on Punch-Ons, a little bit surprised by this move, even though he's a guy who we know can establish a winning culture, but will be 74 when the season kicks off. Pete Carroll gets the Raiders job, which is one of the bigger rebuilds. That's not the Jets. We already said the Jets, and then. Not anymore, Ryan.
Should I repeat what I said earlier on Frank's show?
And Vrabel too. Vrabel, of course, gets hired last week in New England, leaving New Orleans and Dallas, where Jerry seemingly has no idea what he's looking for right now. And Dallas is the only two openings.
Schottenheimer Jr., right?
Yeah, very possible. It could be Brian Schottenheimer, which would be, I think, defeating the purpose of firing Mike McCarthy if you're doing that.
I don't know. Should I repeat what I said on Frank's show?
Yeah, different audience. So, go for it.
Everybody's saying Pete Carroll's too old. Pete Carroll's too old. The last 2 elections in this country, we elected presidents that are older than Pete Carroll. This is, by a margin.
Yeah.
4 years each,
And by the way, President of the United States seems to be a little bit more important of a job than the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. These guys have the nuclear codes and are making laws and everything else. So if we elected those 2 guys, now you can't say Pete Carroll's too old. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's going to be walking around mumbling and in diapers or whatever like that. Nah. We've already proved that we support old guys, right or wrong. We support them.
Old guys rule, right? No, you have. Listen, let's face it. You have to figure that Tom Brady was very much involved.
I'm sure he was
definitely
with the Pete Carroll hire. So you have to pay very close attention, I think, to Brady's thoughts on it. I think it's actually a good hire by the Raiders. And again, I mean, trying to reestablish. Pete Carroll's had success where he's been. He knows how to build teams. He knows how to get teams to get the most out of teams. I think he's got a lot of energy. I think with these hires, you also want to pay attention to how they impact not only their own staff but other staffs. You mentioned how now the Buccaneers are going to have to transition again from another offensive coordinator.
It's going to be, by the way, Vinny, OC number 8 for Baker Mayfield.
Exactly.
Right?
So the with them losing, and it was a top 5 offense last year, right? In Tampa. So with Jacksonville now taking the Buccaneers OC, we've had to, and on our side of the counter, there's two things that we've had to learn expensive lessons on. One is the importance and how intact and healthy offensive lines are, particularly in the postseason, but also watch the ripple effect of when offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators move. You mentioned it, Jeff. The Lions, huge transition for what they just lost, right? The Eagles went to the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, right? And lost both coordinators, and we saw what happened to them. There was a lot of
train wreck.
Yeah. I mean, and there's still some issues, I think, with although Sirianni has, I think, bit wisely given more autonomy to both his coordinators.
Two pretty good coordinators
in the second half of the season.
Best defensive coordinator in football.
And the team has
second,
responded.
Yeah, you're right. Second best.
So, those are things to pay very close attention to.
It's going to be interesting to see what Dallas. I feel like New Orleans is going to hire Mike McCarthy. Dallas, I have no idea. If it's not Schottenheimer, we'll see.
I don't know. Is Schottenheimer such a terrible hire, you think? Really? Why?
He was our OC, right? He's been there already, right?
You know what? I have to reserve the I don't know what a first-time head coach is going to be, which is basically my party line at this point with a first-time head coach. But it just seems a little bit weird to me. If you're gonna hire Mike McCarthy's offensive coordinator who didn't call the plays, why wouldn't you just keep Mike McCarthy if you're going to do that? That's my whole thing on that. And look, we like ragging on McCarthy like most times.
Yeah.
Mike McCarthy's a perfectly fine head coach. He's won a Super Bowl. Yeah. His numbers are very similar to Mike Tomlin's.
I mean, this year was a train wreck in Dallas for a variety of reasons.
Got hurt too.
Yeah, but I mean, you look, McCarthy coach in Dallas, they were good for 10, 11, 12 wins pretty much every year.
I think Big Mike was a perfectly reasonable league average head coach.
And one more thing, when we get to Pete Carroll, the Raiders needed a culture change.
That 100%.
More than head coach. And they needed a head coach. God knows they need a quarterback. They need a lot of things. They needed a culture change. And we can see what a culture change did to the Lions. That was a complete culture change. And, it started out, I mean, what was his record his first year? What was
in Seattle?
No. In Detroit.
Campbell?
Yeah, what was Campbell?
Campbell won 2 games. Campbell won 2 games.
Yeah, but you could see it was a culture change, and that culture built into, certainly one of the best teams in the NFL. I know they lost in last week to Washington, but still one of the best teams in the NFL. And I think some teams have a culture that's strong, and some need a culture that needs changing. And I think that the Raiders were, Exhibit A on a culture that needed changed. And, listen, for this town, I think it would be good for Pete and for the team if he could change that culture. I got to tell you, Brady being part of it doesn't hurt either.
No,
so, you got a couple of guys that are proven winners.
Campbell, by the way, sorry, I shortchanged Detroit. They were 3-13-1 year one.
Oh, yeah, that tie against the Steelers.
Against the Steelers before they even won a game that year. I will tell you, I've been, again, watching games plenty of times in sports books, obviously, through the years. One of the loudest pops I've ever heard in a sports book was when Detroit won their first game under Campbell and Goff. They beat Minnesota on a touchdown at the Horn in the year before Minnesota was the King Luck box, obviously. Yeah. But that was one of the loudest pops I've ever heard in a sports book, which looking back at it, it's kind of funky that was the case, because who the hell was betting on the Lions in that game? But that was a loud pop that day in early December in 2021.
Fun I don't remember.
You never know what moments stick with you in this town.
No,
that was one of them that stuck with me for whatever
funny.
reason.
That's that memory burn thing. You never know when a memory burn is going to come up.
Yeah, never know. So, all right. Well, that's what we got for you here today. Vinny, Chris, great work. Jimmy, wherever he is right now. Thank you to Jimmy as always coming in. Vince, Ryan, Drew Dog, Jerry, and Sean, everyone, thank you as always. We are back normal time next week. Yeah, it's the bye week, but
we'll have some things to talk about.
The packet will be basically ready by the time we're on the air next Friday. Go through memory lane, stories from from Vinny, Chris, and Jimmy about some of their favorites from Super Bowls of the past. And we'll talk through whoever makes it through to the final two in New Orleans. We'll talk about it all the next 2 Fridays right here on Sports by the Book Football Frenzy. On this channel tomorrow morning, it's just me. Alex is off tomorrow. Well, it's Alex's birthday tonight. Taking the day off tomorrow. We'll have a lot of college basketball at 8:30 in the morning right here. Getting, 148 games tomorrow.
Something like that.
It's pretty good, right? 148.
Is that all?
You ready to book them all, Chris?
I have a staff. They do. They book most of the basketball.
First half, second half.
I step in occasionally, but not that often.
We'll break as many as we can down. We'll look at these games a little bit more as well on tomorrow's show. All right. Thank you for everyone who was in the chat as well. I'm Jeff Parles for Chris Andrews and Vinny Magliulo. We'll see you again next time. Sports by the Book Football Frenzy.